Today we're going to be learning how to hand build a ceramic mug from clay. You're going to need some slip, which is watered down clay, a little wooden tool like a popsicle stick or something to help you blend out the seams when you score and slip to weld the clay together, a pastry roller to roll out the clay, and a couple rulers work well to make sure you get the clay to one thickness. I usually like to go fairly thin for something like this if I'm just hand building rather than throwing on the wheel. So usually I'll just go with something like, 2 to 3 millimeters. So a couple rulers, 1 to 2 rulers thick is plenty. And that'll also make it dry quicker. So you don't have to wait as long for it to dry before you can fire it because you've made it thin enough that it'll dry fairly quickly. Once you've rolled out the clay, you can get something like a lid or a cup, something round, so you can cut out the base for your mug. I'm using the back end, the straight edge of the score and slip tool rather than the serrated edge, which is used for scoring. I'm using the straight edge of that rib, that metal rib, to cut the clay. It works great as a little clay knife. So just cutting around my circle to get the circular base for my mug. Then I'm going to set it aside out of the way. After I have, of course, detach it from the lid. Now again, using that and a ruler, I'm going to cut out the walls of the mug. I'm using the ruler to make sure that the lines are straight and that that it's square, that I've got pretty much 90-degree angles and that the opposite lines and sides are parallel. I'm going to make sure that what I cut out fits. And we're going to do it in a way to, because it's so thin, where we have overlap. If I was using thicker, I could just score and slip the sides together on edge. But because I'm going with a thinner one, thinner clay, we need to overlap. And so because there's going to be overlap, I'm going to score and slip the inside edge on one side and the outside edge on the other, up and down the height of that wall. And I'm going to add a bit of slip. Kind of rub that into the grooves that I've made with the scoring tool. And then I'm going to put those two edges together and kind of push them together to help them join. Just double checking my fit here before I make that weld permanent on that edge. Then I'm going to use first my fingers and then the popsicle stick to blend out the seams of that join. And by getting rid of the seams so that I can't see any seam at all, that combined with the scoring and slipping by smearing out that seam, that will make that weld permanent. Now what you can also do, and I should have done this before I rolled out and joined my pieces together, but when I had just rolled out the walls, I could have rolled a roulette into it to give some texture to the side. I'll probably try and do that to the mug afterwards, but I have to be a little more careful. Then I can score the bottom of the base around the outside edges where it's going to join with the mug walls, and then score the bottom as well of the mug walls. And then I'm going to put a little bit of slip and then same thing as before, push them together while blending out the seams. Notice that I'm supporting it on the inside while I do. I have to support that inside corner while I do that by pushing out a little bit, otherwise it'll push in too much. You don't even really need to push out. You just need to make sure it doesn't go in. So you just need to kind of have a finger back there to support the wall from the inside. And you notice it's smushing and changing the shape, and that's okay at this point because I'm going to fix all this up. And as you can see, I can use a sponge to smooth out the rough spots and ugly spots as I go. And now I'm doing the same on the inside. I don't want that seam on the inside either. I want that seam gone and blended out both on the inside and the outside where the base meets the walls, just like I did when I joined the two edges of the wall. here I am rolling a roulette around it. Notice again that I'm supporting it on the inside of the cup with my hand when I rolled that roulette. I'm just going to kind of get it back into round. And then I'm going to take the piece that I cut out for my handle, just kind of size it up a little bit. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 takes, as you guys saw in my demonstration originally. I'm going to score up the spot where I want to attach it to the mug, usually on the spot where I did the seam, because that's actually thick, because I did an overlap seam. And I'm going to score up the part of the handle that's going to attach to the mug, add a little bit of slip, press it on there. Again, figure out where I'm going to attach it on the bottom, score it up, both on the handle and on the mug, add a tiny bit of slip, and press it on. And just like I did with all the other things, after you score and slip them together, you have to blend out the seams. So then I will kind of pinch off the bottom of that handle, and then I will take the popsicle stick again or another tool, and there I'm just using the end of a roulette to press a little motif onto the bottom of the handle. And then right now I'm just using a sponge to kind of get rid of some of that, the rough bits, and then using the popsicle stick to continue blending out the seams. And I'll go back and forth using the sponge and the popsicle stick, sponge and popsicle stick, back and forth, blending out the seams. And once I've got that nicely on there and I'm happy with the weld, I will probably get something like, in this case, I'm using some rolled up paper towel to help shape the shape and hold the shape. Normally I would make those handles a little bit ahead of time and kind of put them into shape and then leave them sitting on their side on the bat for about 15 minutes or so until they kind of hold their shape before I attach them. But for the purposes of this demo, and time was, kind of an option, or kind of, we were under the gun time-wise, I'm going to use these. But the same thing, after about 15 minutes or even half an hour, that handle will have set up and air dried enough that it will hold its form. And I will super, super carefully remove those paper towels. If I'm not careful, it will break. And that's really all there is to it. Now I'm just going to let it go sit and dry so that we can fire it next week. Thanks for watching.